Good morning, and welcome back to C's Listening Room. I don't like to be negative. I like to promote talent. I like to take a band or an artist that's got obvious talent and discuss that. And hopefully people who maybe have not heard these albums will go and look them up and decide to give them a listen based on my reviews. But every now and then, I will come across an album that I'm not really feeling. And those are usually 2-star albums. And I have a perfect example here of a 2-star album. And I'm going to basically be using this as an example of something that I would have to give the lower review to. Typically, most of what I still own is in the 3 to 5-star range. But I have a few left that are below average. And so I'm going to give an example of why. But first off, I just want to say that if I do give negative reviews, I want them to be a learning experience. I would like somebody maybe to see the review who might be in a band, might be an artist themselves, and understand why I've graded it so low. So when they go into their little studio or their recording space to make an album, they might not make the same mistake, or they might learn from the review what does and doesn't work so that they could put out a better product that more people can get enjoyment out of. So I'm hoping that there's a learning experience with these negative reviews. But I'm holding here Home from Sevendust. I liked this album a lot when it came out. This is from 1999, and I believe I bought this in 2000, and I didn't really listen to it much after I bought it. I really liked it for a while when I first got it, but now I just listen to this. I listened to this on my lunch break. I listened to this on my way to and from work, and I wanted to get a new perspective on it. I'm not into this album anymore. The main reason is there are probably dozens of other bands that all came out around the same time that sounded just like them. All the songs to me sound the same. They really aren't that different from one another. And this band just sounds like too many others. I just don't see a real identity here. I don't mind any little aspect of it. There's some cool guitar riffs. There's the beats are fine. The vocals aren't whiny or screechy or anything that kind of annoys me. It's just your pretty standard nu metal album. And I find it tolerable. If you were to put this on in the background and I were in a room or I were in some building or whatever and somebody had this on in the background, I could tolerate it. It's fine, but I just don't think there's any difference between this band and a dozen others that came out at the time. And there just doesn't seem to be a certain style or signature sound that they have. There's no guitar solos, so the guitarist on this album could pretty much be interchanged with guitarists from other bands, and you really wouldn't know, because they just play your basic bar chords, and the guitarists to me just sound like the guitarists from any other band that did the exact same thing, solo free rhythm bands. I had no other way to describe it. So I just don't hear anybody in this band that has a real signature sound. It's a carbon copy of about 20 other bands that were out at the time, and there's no deviation from that very specific style, to the point where they all just kind of sound the same. So when this and there are other bands that did kind of the same thing. They sounded cool when I first bought the album, and then later on I heard 6 or 7 other bands that sounded too similar, and I'm like, okay, I'm kind of bored with this. So I just feel this band really doesn't, or didn't at the time, put in enough effort to sound distinctive. I don't feel it's distinguished. I don't feel like there's any originality here. And maybe they were one of the first bands to do this, but I don't see them branching out into anything stylistically that would give them enough versatility to show how talented they probably really are. And I don't really hear them developing a unique sound or style within the genre that would make them a little bit more identifiable. So this is one that I really have to downgrade. This was one I really liked when it came out. I'm like, oh, this is cool, heavy stuff. And now I listen to it and I say, it's tolerable, but I've heard enough bands now that sound like this. I've heard enough albums that sound like this. I can't really tell this one apart from any of the others, and there really isn't any attempt at doing anything out of the box. Tracks 1 through 13 are all pretty much the same. And there's just little to say about this. If you've heard one of these bands, and unfortunately it seems like you've heard them all, and I can't recommend this album over any of the other bands or albums within this genre. And as I said, you could pretty much interchange them. You could remove a guitarist or a bass player, replace them with one from another band, and nobody would even notice. It's kind of unfortunate. But this is a genre, a subgenre that I don't think has aged well at all. And I think it was kind of a victim of oversaturation and too little of experimentation. So went from probably being a 4-star album when I first bought it to 2 out of 5. So that's really all I have to say. I know this isn't going to be my best video, but I wanted to give an example of a 2-star album and why I would rate it 2 stars. It's not horrible. I obviously can listen to it and all the way through and tolerate it, but there's just nothing there that I haven't heard since a dozen times over. It's unfortunate, but I wanted to at least give an example of an unenthusiastic example, obviously, of what a 2-star album sounds like, in my opinion. So, there you go, Sevendust Home. Unfortunately, 2 out of 5 stars now. So, hopefully I'll catch you soon. Thanks for watching, and spread the word that I'm still making videos. See you later. Bye.